Okay, so I'm going to give you a tour to where I'm at now. And again, apologize if people wanted to watch me do all this. It's tedious enough and tiring enough to do it without having to mess with a camera. But anyway, so pull the lever. So there's the wheel in its position because we're looking at the bottom. I had a bunch of real rusty old expanded metal and I'm making a Franken grill. It's just to keep stuff from falling out of the tongue if you pack stuff on your trailer. So here's the trailer. You're looking at the bottom. I've been sanding it right now, cleaning it up. The last bit I got to do is this. That's a 1/4 inch 6x6 tube. And somewhere there's going to be an axle with springs. And since I put this riser under here, I'm rising up the spring shackles too. And I'll put something on the back to support it. So that's the last bit. Still waiting for the guy to get me the axle and the clamps and the springs and all that. So one last look. Now these washers I put here, that's places where I'm going to come around with a saw or a drill and drill holes in them. These are for drainage, so the frame will drain real good. Don't want it to keep wet inside. It'll get condensation and everything. Keep it dry. So there you go. Kidding me? Okay, so what you're seeing here is a 3/4 inch hole. I drilled in the angle iron. This is a 1/2 inch National Pipe thread tap. Just putting it, running threads in there. Now in this case, it doesn't matter how straight it is, as long as you get some half-ass threads in that hole. And usually I want to run that tap in about halfway. Okay, see how lucky I am. All right. So now there's a really thin piece of metal with some half-ass pipe threads in there, and this is a strain relief. 1/2 inch strain relief for a wire. Might have to work it a little bit. It's just about to start. finish up, and I think this will probably be part 2 by now of the bug out trailer build for my buddy. So I kind of sprayed the bottom after I welded it all together just to color code it. It's going to get all nicked up while I mess with it, but it gets all the angles. So then when I turn it over at the end, I'll be able to paint it all in while it's sitting on its wheels. But right now, I'm getting ready to make the mounting for the trailer springs. So, I mean, they have to have places to bolt the springs right here. So, let me move the camera. What you see right here is a piece of 6" by 6" structural steel tubing that is 1/4 inch thick. So the OD is 6 inches, it's 1/4 inch wall. It's very heavy duty stuff. And it's about 7 inches. It was left over from something else I did. I made a winch to pull an aircraft into a trailer for an experimental aircraft. Anyway, I cut it into pieces like this. This I did with just a angle grinder with a chop off saw, and it essentially, one of those is going to go there, one goes there. And then there's pieces of steel that go around the back to encase this thin tubing with this 1/4 inch stuff, and then the mounts for the springs will be right here. So that's the next step. I measured it all out, got my center line so I can mount it. When I actually mount the springs, sounds like the Navy flying by. Anyway, there'll be more accurate measurements when I actually weld these pieces on. So here's a look at the welding. And just to reiterate, this is 1/4 inch steel. And it started out as a 6" by 6" outside diameter square structural steel tube with a 1/4 inch diameter wall. And that 6" piece of that tubing is what I make these 4 mounts. Now, if you're going to do one and you're not using this tube, you just want to rise it up, this stuff's real good for that. You could real easily make a 6" lift on the spring mounts if you wanted a higher trailer. Anyway. Sorry about shaking around. I might have to edit that out. So here's the trailer painted on the bottom with the mounts kind of mocked up. And again, you got to do that on both sides. Once I get that done, I'll be ready to weld on the mounts for the axle when it gets here for the springs. See you on the flip side. Just so everybody knows it's me, right? Right? Can you see me? I'm the one welding. Very nice. Now, if you bitch at it about being a vertical down, how's it going? So now I'm putting the springs on, and you can see. Hope you can hear me, but my experiment with iPhones continues. This is the front spring mount. It's the first one I put on, and I put it centered and perfectly aligned with this there. Put the second one on just by going straight back 24.25 inches. But now I need to do that one on the other side. And these two have to be part of a very precise triangle with that ball in the center. So the length of each of these long sides of that triangle have to be as close as you can get to identical. Within a small fraction of an inch, depends on people. You know, I've seen them really off. Anyway, there's two ways to do it. One, if I can find my tape measure. Here's one way. You put the tape measure. Since these two brackets are machined or engineered and stamped out, they're fairly close. And you measure it right to the center at the end, and it's 99 1/8. Then you go over and it should be 99 1/8. And it is 99 1/8. I tacked that side already. But I'm gonna have to take, let's see, can you see me? Can you hear me now? I'm gonna have to take a camera over there to show you an old man trick from back in the day that was what we used to tack stuff, and then we would measure it. Because when you're tacking it, it can move. If you don't tack it, it can move when you're measuring it. So we tack it and then measure it. Well, then this guy showed me this trick to get them tacked, where most of the time when you measure it, you don't have to cut them off and reposition them. So let me show you. Okay, I hope you can see this. I'm blocking the sun with my body. See the black dot on a string? There's another black dot right on the edge of that plate, and a black dot right on the corner of the plate. That string goes all the way to the end, right? So this works. You can't mess with a string. So I'm gonna walk around the other side. Pick up that string the same way and hang it on this side. See? Black dot right here lands right on the corner. This dot right on the corner, and the one right in the middle. So I used that string to position this side. I welded this one first. I got really crazy and got it all perfectly lined up where I wanted it, and tacked it on. Then I ran the string over here and tacked this one on. And then I measured it with a tape measure, and I'm under a 1/64 of an inch variation in the length from the center of these two mounting points. So happy with that. Well, there it is. Just hand painted the spring hangers with a chip brush so I can throw it away when it's done. Keeps it from rusting. It's time to flip it over. I'm waiting for some of my boys to come over to flip it over for me. I'm too old and feeble. Don't tell anybody. Hey guys, yeah, I'm wearing my boonie hat because I'm working out in the sun and this is the Sonora Desert. Time to get a roof. So, on this trailer build, this particular bit right here is for people that are watching it with a mind toward learning how to do it. And there's one thing that happens all the time. In this case, I have to make a bracket. Actually, I have to make 4 brackets. Now, you can weld a piece of metal and drill a hole in it or weld it on it, it doesn't matter. But this is for a part that actually I want to be able to take off and put back on. It's going to have like wiring under it. So you want to be able to bolt it in, but if you have to go service things, you got to be able to unbolt it. So you make 4 brackets. And these ones are just a 1-inch wide by 3-inch long by 1/2-inch thick piece of steel with a hole drilled in it that I'm going to put threads in and then weld it on. But what if you want to make brackets and you want it to look like it was all identical, but you don't have a mill, you don't have a lathe, you don't have machine tools, you might have a drill press if you're lucky, or maybe a handheld drill. This is how you can make a repeatable hole in there. Let me show you. So, if I put this guy right here, it's got a hole in it. You know, same thing. Same thing. Here's the deal. See if you can see it in there. See? Those holes are lined up perfectly. And I just did them by holding it on a drill press. So here's how I do it. This is the first one I did. I measured it real careful with a scale and got a hole about where I wanted it, right in the middle, 1/2 inch from the end. Here's the last piece I have to make. So I set this, I'm going to reposition the camera so you can see it. Most people know this already, but you never know, right? So now I want to drill a hole in this guy. First I get a rag away from the drill. So I put the first one. So here's the thing. If you're using this matching process to duplicate parts, you make the first one and that's the only one you use to match the rest. And the reason for that is no matter how good you are, that first one's going to have a flaw. It might be a matter of a couple thousands or a couple 100,000, who knows. But you will transfer the error you made on the first one to every other one. And then they will multiply. If you make a copy and use the copy, you'll multiply the error. So just get a little bit of sauce in here. Notice I clamped it down with a C-clamp because I don't want my fingers anywhere near that little piece of metal spinning around on the end of a drill bit, should it decide to try and escape. Now you can do this with a hand drill, and it's even more important to not use a copy using a hand drill because nobody can get a perfectly straight up and down orientation with a hand drill, so you always drill the hole a little crooked. So if you keep using the copy, your hole will end up way off to the side. So there it is. Whoops. Pretty good. Okay, kids, here we are again. These are the brackets I made the holes in. So now it's time to put threads in those holes. Now these are 5/16 coarse, or what you would call 5/16 18 thread count. It's a coarse 5/16 thread. And believe it or not, this is a number drill bit, which I can't find the box it came out of. What did I do with it? Anyway, if you're going to drill a hole and put threads, you got to get the right size drill bit. And number drill bits and letter drill bits are like different. A letter drill bit tends to be in between the nominal sizes. You find it like Lowe's or whatever, but you can find a tap. If you have a set of taps, they'll tell you what size drill bit to use sometimes, or you get drill sets. But putting these threads in, you want it to be straight up and down. You don't want it to be the threads going sideways. So how do you do that when you don't have a machine or a drill press or something that's going to hold everything straight? Well, from my point of view, and I know you can't see it on a camera, like from here, you can see pretty much by going like this where straight up and down is. It's the other one that you mess up on. So the way you do it is you just work it back and forth like this until it gets a bite, start to see it's holding itself. And I've got a little piece of round bar stock that makes kind of a decent straight edge. And by looking at it, I can tell it has to be this way a little bit, right? Right here. So you get it kind of straight. And you push down on it. Try and get it to start going down in there. See, now I've got it. It's starting to cut threads. I can feel it. So then you check it. Yeah. It's pretty close. Okay. So now, that's half a turn. Another half, that's a full turn. 1.5 turns. 2 turns. About that far on this tap is how long it takes for the. Let me bring it out and show you to you if you don't know about this. Like I said, this is only for people that don't know how to do this. I'm not trying to insult anybody. But on this end of the tap, the teeth that cut the threads are kind of ground down. Takes about 3 turns, 3 or 4 turns, till it gets to the full width of the threads on the body of this thing. Lubricant is your friend. So for hand tapping, you go a little bit and go back. Go a little bit, go back. Basically, you're making a little chip in this gullet. So to make really good threads by hand, you kind of need to not let those chips get too big in there or they'll start to score. On a machine, it does it so quick and smoothly that it just works great. So now once I got it in there, I can feel it coming out the back. It's the kind of thing you can feel. It gets harder and then it gets easier. On this tap, it's designed to go all the way through. And that's it. Tap comes out. Take your nice tap and clean all the chips off. All I got to do is deburr it. Okay, here you see the mock-up of the battery box holder 1-inch bar stock from an old garage door I scavenged that got torn down. I really like the fitting of my area where this is the bottom of a weld where the 8 is. Anyway, an old piece of shelving scavenged, cut to fit. It's already got paint. Now this is interesting. I used to make brackets and flanges with a plasma cam at work, and this is a drop. And I kept a handful of them. I used to make targets with them and hang stuff on them for shooting, but this one was just the right size to make a flange to hold the spare tire on the trailer. So buff it up, weld it up, and mount it up on the front of the trailer. And then onto the fenders. These were store-bought, supplied by the customer. I just tacked them together and tacked them on the frame. Welded them up tight. Made sure they were lined up good. Centered over the wheel. And then here's just before I put the tire rack on it.
Ran out of paint. Bummer.
So this is it, waiting for the spring, and I moved it to the front. Okay, this is a little note I made on a scratch pad when I talked to this fellow about the size of the trailer he needed and everything. Took it home and converted it into this, which gives me the nominal dimensions that I'm aiming for and the orientation. This is converted from that into a material list, basically the sizes in feet of what I have to order, and then a little detail of the overlap where the laminated box and angle iron sits. This is the metal I bought, or the quote I got for the metal. It ended up being like $350 basically, and it's the paint I got. Nice stuff. You can get a spray can to match it.